Sean, that's all of the announcements that I had.
Yes. Let's welcome on stage another startup from the UK, NatCap, the nature intelligence company. The floor is yours, Sebastian.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to introduce you to NatCap. We make it easy to measure, report, and act on nature. And the context here is we have a climate crisis that many of you have been working on for many years. We also have a nature crisis, a water crisis, a pollution crisis, a biodiversity crisis. And just like we've had to change how we measure, report, and act on climate, we're now having to do the same for nature. And we're seeing companies embark on a nature journey, primarily here in Europe, because you have to. As of January this year, CSRD came into force, which means thousands of companies now have to report on their impacts and dependencies on water, biodiversity, pollution for the first time. But we see many companies go beyond that, and here in Europe and around the world start to subscribe to the TNFD, which is the gold standard voluntary framework that companies are increasingly using. But all of this reporting is just the foundation. Where we're heading is a world in which nature, as well as climate, is embedded in your corporate strategies, and you have targets, not only to address net zero, but to set you on a nature-positive trajectory. And doing all of this is hard, and it opens up a whole host of new challenges. Firstly, how on earth do we select what we should be measuring when we start our nature journey? How do we collect all that data, which today is fragmented across all sorts of different NGO, non-profit, and paywalled sources? How do we then integrate this data and generate business value so it doesn't just sit in a report, but it drives decision-making and risk management? NatCap is the partner for that nature journey, and our anchor here is science excellence. We were spawned out of Oxford University. Our academic founder is Professor Baroness Cathy Willis, an authority in this space, and we take we take science very seriously, and it's the foundation to everything we do. But what we've spent the last 5 years building is a software product that integrates all of the data you need to measure nature in one place, coupling unique access to third-party data sources and layering that with our own IP and models. But then we recognize, particularly here in Europe, there is a demand for consultants and advisors to help you as you start that nature journey. And we've built an advisory team from the best consulting firms and institutions to help you do that. So NatCap's technology works by firstly integrating all the data we can find on your supply chain and your operations as a company, ingesting over 90 third-party data sources from satellite, government, and site-level data, including exclusive access to some high-cost and high-quality data sets. And then we layer on top of that proprietary models. We have the world's largest database of proprietary metrics to convert that raw data into the metrics of biodiversity integrity, soil quality, water quality, key biodiversity areas, the data that you actually need as a business to start reporting and acting and measuring nature. And that all comes together in our software platform. And we're not just doing this for the first time. We're the market leader who are doing it for the 10th, 20th, 30th time. And we're working already with the biggest energy company here in Europe, Equinor. We work already with the biggest retailer in the UK, Tesco. We've worked with the biggest bank in Australia, Combank. We work with the biggest insurance company in Asia, MS&AD. We work with the biggest crop sciences firm, at least in Germany and abroad, in Bayer. And we've partnered with some of the world's leading consulting firms as their data provider, and with some of the world's leading NGOs to develop some of these metrics. And why are these companies using us? They're using us because scientific excellence matters. When you're facing external scrutiny on these topics, getting it right matters. They're using us because we're cost effective, because we've automated so much of this solution and so much of this problem through our software. And they're using us because we have unique access to IP and data that these companies need. So we're NatCap. We're making it easy and cheap to measure, act, and report on nature, and looking forward to your questions.
Thank you. Thank you. I cut the in-person audience a little short last time, so who has the first question? Oh, Sam, do you have a question from the online audience, perhaps?
I have a question from Emilio. Could you be a bit more specific? What exactly is the data that you're tracking?
So we have over 70 metrics in-house that we've built to measure nature, and these align with the CSRD and TNFD framework. So to be specific, these will be things like proximity to key biodiversity areas, proximity to protected areas, proximity to World Heritage sites, water scarcity, soil health. Those would be the metrics that we use to assess whether your site is important for nature. And then once we've assessed how important those sites are, we will then measure the impacts and the risks using a whole larger suite of metrics. So it really varies by industry and company which metric is appropriate, which is why we've had to build so many.
Thanks.
Great. I see a question here. A lady in red.
Thank you very much. How is your data regarded by investors and regulators?
How should what, sorry?
How's your data, how's your outcome regarded by investors and or regulators?
So one of the things that's unique about nature, which differs from climate, is we don't have the GHG protocol, which defines the standards by which one measures scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Nature doesn't have those standards yet, so it's a bit of a free-for-all, for better or for worse, which is why we've invested so heavily in science, which is why we're spun out of Oxford, which is why we've peer-reviewed as many of our metrics and models as we can, which is why we've built the advisory board of professors that we have, because we believe in a world without regulatory standards behind the metrics. It's important to have a high level of internal excellence to provide companies the confidence that data is sufficient quality.
Wow, that sounds very promising. Thank you so much, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Jean?